Shas, Brachas Bas Rav Yehuda, and Avram ben Rav Yitzchak. Okay, let's take it away. We are in Brachas Taf Chof Beis Amud Aleph, second wide line. Tanya, it says in the Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Haya Omer. He would say, Ein Dva Torah, Ein Divrei Torah Mekablim Tuma. The Torah, the holy Torah, you can't be metamed. It's too holy. It doesn't get tome. You can't be metamed the Torah. Meaning, you can learn Torah without going to the mikvah. You don't have to go to the mikvah to learn Torah if someone's a Baal Keri. If someone's got Tumah, he's impure, he does not need to go to the mikvah to dip in the mikvah in order to become tahor, to learn Torah. Today, by the way, introduction, we're doing a deep dive into mikvah, pun intended. Let's see. There's a story. A certain student of this Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, he was megaming. He wasn't talking clearly. It's machlek is what he was doing. It means he was slurring like that, or he was skipping where you say Shem Hashem. He didn't want to say the shame of Hashem. So Amalei Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira said to him, Bni, my child, psach picha v'yirid varecha. Open your mouth, talk properly, and the words and will become enlightened. Meaning, don't worry, you can say the words of Torah just because you're Tomei, whatever it is. This guy was Tomei. He had a Tumas Keri. So he didn't want to learn Torah properly. He was encompassing the words. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira gave it to him over the head. Say the words properly. Why? She'ein divrei Torah mekablim tuma. You can't be metamed the Torah. Shenema, it says, how do you know you can't be metamed the Torah? Haloi koi dvari ke'esh num Hashem. My words are like fire. You can't be metamed fire. Ma'esh ein mekabel tuma, just like fire can't become tamei. Av divrei Torah ein mekabel tuma. Similarly, Torah doesn't become impure. So it doesn't matter if you're impure learning Torah, the Torah is just going to be metayu. The Torah is like mayim, it's metayu. I don't know why it doesn't say Torah is like mayim. The mayim is metayu. The fire, it's like fire. That fire is purifies. In other words, if you've got something that's tummy, you put it into the fire. I guess it's. Oh, okay. So, l'chayra, this Yehuda ben Beseira, he's arguing on. He's saying there is no longer a takana of Ezra. Ezra made this takana, it would appear, that someone's tomei, he's not allowed to the Torah without going to the mikvah. Came along Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira and said, no, Torah isn't metame. Okay, so it says the gemorah, Amar Mar said, Matzias a Mishnah, Ve Matzias a gemorah. This guy, who's Baal Keri, he can explain a Mishnah, he could do a Ve'en Matzias a gemorah. He shouldn't explain a gemorah. Mesele Rabbi Eloi, and this would appear to assist Rabbi Eloi. Rabbi Eloi said, Amar Ravacha Bayakov, Vishim Rabbeinu, Halacha. What's the halacha? Matzias a Mishnah, Ve'en Matzias a gemorah. So we have the Rabbi Eloi that says you're allowed to explain the Mishnah, but you don't explain the Gemara. Ketanoi, it's a machlekes Tanoi. Matzisa Mishnah ve'en Matzisa Gemara. Divrei Reb Meir. Rav Meir says you can explain the Mishnah, but don't explain the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda ben Gamliel Eimer, Mishra Chanan ben Gamliel, Zeh v'Zeh Aser. You shouldn't be matzia not the Mishnah and not the Gemara. V'ami, and some say Zeh v'Zeh Mutar. You're allowed to do both. There's no problem with explaining not the Mishnah or the Gemara. You can go ahead. If you hold they're both Aser, he says like Rabbi Yochanan Sandler. That says it's both Aser. The Mandam that says you're allowed to explain the Mishnah or Gemara, that's the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Torah is not Mekabel Tumah. You don't have to go to the mikvah before you learn any Torah. So you see there's a Mishnah also that holds like this Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira that says you're allowed to learn Torah, there's no problem with.
When we say Torah is not Makabel Tumah, are we talking about the sefer that you're learning from, or are we talking about the concept? Because how can the concept anyway to even couple anything.
Well, so some say it means when you learn Torah, you're going to touch the sefer and you're going to be metam with the sefer.
Okay, so it's the sefer.
No, but the Pashtus is talking about the fact that why can't you learn Torah? What's the problem? You're studying Torah. You might think that I'm Tomei. How can I learn Torah? I'm gonna bring some tum into it. It's going to go into my head the wrong way. The tum is going to affect the way I understand the Torah, maybe. No, the tum doesn't affect the Torah. Torah is intellectual. It's above your physical Torah, tum Torah. But it's an interesting question. It's an interesting point. What did I see about this? Hold on one second. No, okay. Yep. So some want to say like we're talking about the actual sefer and the whole gezerah because you might touch a sefer. Maybe I don't know. It's not much. But the mashmais is that. Well, we'll get there. It's part of the sugya. I want to carry on and maybe we'll circle back to it. It says the gemorah. Where are we? Okay. Amar of Nachman by Yitzchak. So gemorah later on is going to say we pass. Basically, we should say we pass like this Reb Nachman because Reb Nachman was one of the later Achronim, or later Amoraim, and we passing like the Basra. We passing like the last one. So he says, "No galma kahani tlas sabi." The minig ha'olam, the custom. What do people do? Like these three elders. Who are the three elders? One of them is this Rebbe B'Seira that says Torah is not mekabel tuma. Rabbi Eli, Bereishis Hageiz. We're passing like Rabbi Eli. The minig is like Rabbi Eli when it comes to Bereishis Hageiz, meaning when you share your sheep, you're supposed to give each time you share a little bit to the kohen. And there's a machlekes. Does that apply only in Eretz Yisrael, or is that also in Chutzal? It's a machlekes. So we're passing like Rabbi Eli, the only in Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Shaya b'kilayim. We're passing like Rabbi Shaya b'kilayim. Rabbi Yehuda B'Seira b'divrei Torah. We're passing like this Rabbi Yehuda B'Seira when it comes to Torah. That what the minig is, you don't have to go to the mikvah, like this Rabbi Yehuda B'Seira. So that's the minig. So who cares what the minig is? Noga alma. So what they explain is that if the minig of the olim is like that, that would imply if that's what everyone was doing, that at some stage that became the halacha. That's the mashmai say. It's not just like okay, this is what people do. This is the halacha. The halacha is going to be like Rav Nachman because first of all he's a basra, and also because he's saying that's what everyone was doing. Look what everyone does. This is what everyone does. That's the halacha. Says the Gemara. What explanation? Rabbi Eli Bereishis Hageiz. What's the machlekes with Rabbi Eli? The Tanya Rabbi Eli Bereishis Hageiz didn't know about ba'aretz. You only have to give your sharings to the kohen in Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Shai b'kilayim. What's the story of Rabbi Shai b'kilayim? The chesiv le'tizuk kamacha kilayim. You shouldn't plow your field. You shouldn't plant your field two grains together, two different things, into to weave them. Rabbi Shai mela'ela meinachai vat she's a chita v'seir v'chatza b'peilis yad. You're not chayiv unless you do chita v'seir v'chatza all together. That Torah is not mekabel tuma, and therefore you do not need to go to the mikveh before you learn Torah. Kiyasa Ziri, when Ziri came, Omar, Ziri said, Betlu ele tefilus. They cancelled the tefillah of Ezra. It was cancelled. Ziri came from Eretz Yisrael, and he said, the tefillah of Ezra has been cancelled. V'amila batul and tilusa. What's the difference? If he said you cancel the tefillah dipping in the mikveh, that's Yehuda B'Seira. Mandam betul and tilusa. Washing. What's washing? Washing your hands. He says they were mevatel, washing your hands for prayer. And this goes like the mandama that says he cursed people that instead of davening, they're busy looking for water to wash their hands before they pray. Why did he curse them? Because they're missing tefillah. They cancelled the tchiv to wash your hands before tefillah. So why are you busy being a frumah and washing your hands before tefillah? You don't have to. Go daven with a minion. Right? So Ziri says they were muvatal tefillah. That's how Ziri learns. And we've got a Reb Nachman that says the minig is like Yehuda ben B'Seira, and therefore there is no chiyuv to dip in the mikvah. The question is how could If Ezra was Masak in this, Rishonim ask, how could Zeiri say, how could they be Mavatal? How could the later Beis Din be Mavatal at Takana of Ezra? If Ezra was Masak in Tefillah, how could hundreds of years later, a smaller Beis Din, you can't be Mavatal unless you're a bigger Beis Din. How could they go ahead and cancel this Takana that you have to go to the mikveh, you have to take a dip in the water? How does that work? Where do they have the koach to do that from? That's the kasha. So what one Mahalach Rishonim say is that Ezra wasn't masakin it. It wasn't a real takana. It could be someone else was masakin it in the time of Ezra. Ezra wasn't masakin it. Others say it was just the minig ha'olam. In the time of Ezra, that was the minig ha'olam. Everyone used to do it, and that followed there. It's called a takonas Ezra, but it wasn't really a takana. He wasn't geyser. It's just that's what everyone did, and that's why if the minig ha'olam now is not to, so that's why Reb Nachman says that the minig is not to do that, because it was never a gezerah that you have to do it. Others want,
You don't even tend not to uproot minhagim either, though. So how did that work out?
Well, you don't. So other Rishonim say that any takana that Chazal say, any decree that the rabbis make that ein roiv etziv yichol lamaba, that's difficult and most people can't keep, it's not chal. It wasn't chal, and it was only in some places did they do it. Not maybe in the hot countries they did it. In the cold countries they couldn't go to the mikvah. In other words, in some places there's no mikvah available. What are you going to do? That's it. You're not going to learn Torah. You're not going to learn Torah for 3 months till you find the mikvah. You're not going to daven. So others say that the Takonis Ezra was only where it's easy. Has to be that he wasn't a masakin that you can never daven, never pray if you don't go to the mikvah. How could that be? Well, a guy has got a mikvah so for 3 months he's not going to learn Torah. For 2 years, the people lived in towns where there's no mikvah. So what? 10 years they're not going to pray or So it must be that the Takana was only where it's easy, only where it's doable. And Chazal later on said this is no longer doable. Others want to say that since the whole gezerah was, there's two options for the gezerah, right? The gezerah was, we're going to see, that people shouldn't be with their wives the whole time, all day. The Talmud shouldn't be like chickens with their wives. That's the glosh of the gemorah. So a guy will think, oh my gosh, if I go home, spend time with my wife, I'm going to have to drag myself out to this mikvah, freezing cold, there's no normal towel, it's a major headache, I've got a headache, right? I can't be bothered. Okay, it's gonna, in that way he's gonna stay in the base of medrash, basically. That's the logic. That's what they're explaining. In other words, in the middle of the day, instead of going home for a lunch break, he's gonna stay in the base of medrash. It's not worth it. It's a major headache. But at a certain stage, it becomes like, you know what? Okay, I'll go home and I won't learn Torah, right? So, what was the point of the takana? The point was the takana wasn't that you shouldn't learn Torah. It's not to learn less Torah. The point of the takana is you should spend less time with your wife, I guess, right? Or only at night, not in the day. That's how someone explained the takana. The whole takana was that at night there's no problem, but the problem was that people go home in the middle of the day. Just keep it for the night, right? So I'll call upon him. So that's maybe how Zeiri says that they will move out to this takana. Says the gemorah. Chatani shana v'chatani lochsha. Sorry, where are we up to? Am I there? No. Sorry, Torah Rabbana, yes, skip slides. Torah Rabbana. The rabbis told, Balkari shnosan al tishakabin, mayim tor. The Mishnah, Torah Rabbana. If you poured 9 cubits of water over this guy's head, who's got tumas keri, he's tar. What's 9 kabin? It's between, basically saying nowadays, it works out between 12 and 20 liters of water. About a 3 to 5 minute shower, depending on your water pressure. Mine now is very good. I had it upgraded. It's probably like a 2-minute shower, right? So that's the Mishnah. You could pour, you don't need to go to a mikvah. No need for a mikvah. It's enough to take a shower. It's enough to pour on the head. It's enough to pour over the person's body. Be'erech 12 liters of water, 15 liters of water. Between 12 and 15 liters of water, 12 and 20 liters of water if you want to be machmer. It's darbon, it's not even darbon, it's a minix, you can be makel. The smaller share, 12 liters it takes, you can measure how long it takes your water to fill up a bottle, it takes like 30 seconds. So, a couple of minutes, good shower, you're done. Now, even though the Shulchan Aruch says that halacha l'maisa there is no takonas ezra, you don't have to go to the mikvah. Mishnah Berurah says that some tzaddikim are makpid to go to the mikvah, and there is still a thing. Now, what about Teisha Kabin? How does Teisha Kabin work? So the Mishnah Berurah says that, side note, that you can use 3 kalim. It doesn't have to be one kli. It doesn't have to be one huge 20-liter thing of water you pour over your head. It could be 3 kalim of 4 liters, let's say. But you've got to pour them one after the other. You can't have a break between them. It's got to be continuous. Question is, a place you can discuss, rather interesting, whether a shower is, a couple of places say shower's fine. Shower's fine, Teisha Kabin, like I said, 5-minute shower, you're done. Chazon Ish says no, it's not good, because each hole in the shower head, right, is like a separate kli. And if it's a separate kli, you're not going to get your 9 kabin from 3 kalim. You've got 9 kabin from like 50 holes in your shower head. I guess maybe even the Chazon Ish will agree, if you take a 10-minute shower, you get 9 kabin from 3 holes, then you're okay. But that might take you a while. Okay, thought I'd throw that in, side note. Says the taking
Is that good for any mikveh requirement?
No,
only for Balkari.
Only for Balkari.
Okay.
Only for Balkari. In other words, a Balkari does not need, the mikveh Balkari needs, he doesn't even need a kosher mikveh. He can take a swimming pool. In other words, normally you need rainwater for a mikveh.
Yeah.
This guy, we're going to see, the Gemara says you can have hot water, take a bath. You don't need to have a kosher mikveh. Just, it's called maim shuvin. Drawn water. You can use drawn water. It doesn't matter if it was drawn, you fill up your swimming pool, no problem, right? Big bathtub, fine. I'm a big guy. Most bathtubs can't take a guy like me. It's not going to work. So Gemara says, back up again. It works. He's tar. Nachum ish gamzu lachshe Rebbe Kiva. Nachum ish gamzu, he whispered this din to Rebbe Kiva. Rebbe Kiva lachshe Ben Azai, and Rebbe Kiva whispered it to Ben Azai. Right? They didn't want to tell everyone. We're going to see why. Why didn't they want to tell everyone this? Then you can just use 9 kabin of water. It's obviously a lot easier pouring 12 liters of water than finding a kosher mikvah, right? You can do this at home. Ben Azai yotza v'shana l'tamida b'shuk. Ben Azai went out. He announced it in the shuk. No more mikvah. You don't have to go anymore. Just take a shower. We're good. So the question is, first of all, a couple of just points over here. Everyone knows why it was called Nachum Ish Gamzu. I was just talking to a friend about this yesterday, so I'll mention it now. Why is it called Nachum Ish Gamzu? Because he always said Gamzu l'taiva. Everything was Gamzu l'taiva. This is for the best. This is for the best. For the best. That's what's called Nachum Ish Gamzu. Some say, why is it called Nachum Ish Gamzu? I never knew this, because Gamzu l'taiva is Gematria Nachum with a kaila. Okay, so says the Gemara. So they say, why did Nachum Ish Gamzu? Why did Ben Azai, go ahead and tell everyone? Rebbe Kiva, and that they whispered it. Nachum Ish Gamzu whispered it. Don't tell anyone, but you can use Teisha Kabin. Why did Nachum Ish Gamzu come out and tell everyone? Sorry, why did Ben Azai go out and tell everyone? Because Gemara says Ben Azai never got married. The whole shaila is if a guy's tomei, he's with his wife, does he have to go to the mikvah? So for them, it was like, listen, people might think that I'm married, I'm trying to be makel on myself, they might not take it seriously. He wasn't married, for him it wasn't relevant to Holden. So he came and said, I can tell everyone. That's what some of Farshim say. I don't know if you can say such a pshat, but I saw someone mentions that. So says the Gemara, back up, so just to relocate, we're Chof Beis Amud Aleph in the wide lines, smack in the middle of the wide lines. Actually, 2/3 of the way down in the wide lines. So, Ben Yaza Aza Yotza V'Shana LaTamida B'Shuk. So, Pligi Batreya Murai B'Marava. There's 2-way machlokes. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Abin, Rabbi Yosef Bazvida. They had an argument. Chad Tani Shana, V'Chad Tani Lochsha. One said he whispered it, one said he taught it. Man Tani Shana, if he said he taught it, B'Shum Bittul Torah. Why did they teach it to each other? Because of Bittul Torah. Why did they tell everyone? Because of Bittul Torah. In other words, people stopped learning Torah. The guy's Tomei. He can't go to the mikveh. There's no mikveh around. So he said, okay, I'll sit home and I'll play cards, right? I'll talk to the kids for a few hours, right? So to avoid Bittul Torah, they said, hey, Teisha Kabin, take a shower. You don't have to dip in a mikvah. So that's why they taught it. He wasn't going with this thing that he whispered it, don't tell anyone, right? He told everyone. He told everyone, screamed it out public. Why? Bittul Torah. Umishum bittul Piria Verivya. And the other reason is because people were like, listen, I can't be bothered to go to the mikvah. I'm not going to be with my wife. So what happens? They took a survey after a few years. They saw, how come there's a lot less kids? Or they knew people were not spending time with their wives because of the gzeir of the mikvah. So they said, cancel the mikvah thing. Take a shower instead. That way people will be with their wives. In other words, they didn't want people... The point of the gzeir wasn't that, according to this, the point of the takana to go to the mikvah is not that you shouldn't be with your wife. You should be with your wife, but then you should go to the mikvahs. You should learn Torah in purity. You should be nice and pure when you learn Torah, right? The point isn't that you shouldn't spend time with your wife, and they saw that, you know what? People can't be bothered to be with their wives. They're stopping to be with their wives. So they said, cancel. That wasn't the point of it. There's less kids. This is going to destroy the Jewish people, right? Okay, so they canceled. Either way, they canceled. Either because people weren't learning Torah afterwards, either because people they spent time with their wives, but then they stopped learning Torah, which is bad, or they stopped spending time with their wives. One of the two. You got to be very careful. See, everything's got massive ramifications. Mandatani. Shas, why did he whisper it? If you Gaira said that he whispered it, why did he whisper it? Why didn't he tell everyone? The reason why they whispered it is because they didn't want people to take the showers. They wanted people to have to go to the mikvah. They wanted to stop people being with their wives. Why? They shouldn't be like Tana Goyim. Now the Rambam says that's the whole reason for the Takanas Ezra. The whole point of the takana was that people should spend a bit less time with their wives, right? But l'chayra, the gemorah just seems to be saying that that's why he whispered it. That wasn't the point of the takana. The point of the takana was something else. Maybe you should learn Torah, but you should be Torah when you learn Torah. And that's just the reason why he whispered it. He didn't want to tell everyone this trade secret that, you could just take a shower. Omer of Yana. Says Rav Yana, Shamati shemakilim ba, v'shamati shemachmirim ba. I heard that some people are makel, and I heard that some people are machmer. So it's a machlekes Rishonim. What are we talking about here? V'chol machmer, anyone who's machmer, alatzmai, marichin la yama v'shnaisav. Anyone who's machmer will have arichas yomim, have lengthy days. Tovalav bracha, right? So the question is, what are we talking about? What's the chum and what's the kula? Maybe so. Some say it means machmirin to use the mikveh and not teisha kabin. Some say it means bichlal to be tayvel kunta be yudbem say you don't have to be tayvel bichlal, right? There's nothing. Maybe it means to be machmer. Some say it means to be machmer using proper mikveh water, not using maim shuvim. Big machlek is what the chumra is over here. But definitely, some people are machmer, some people are mekel. What does Rashi say? Rashi should be kilim ba. There's two columns of Rashi here. The left column of Rashi, about halfway down, Rashi's Bekilba. B'mirchatzayis, they used to go to the bathhouse when they seen the seish kabin. That's how they mekel. They just took a shower, or they didn't use a proper mikveh. They just went to the local swimming pool. That's what they went to local. They used to have local bath. They used to have bathhouse. Not everyone had a bath. They had a bathhouse. It wasn't a proper mikveh. They took a bath. They went to the bath instead of going to the mikveh. So that was the kula. Okay, so back up. Take a look in the Gemara. So, interestingly, it's an interesting pshat. Why to say you have lengthy days, someone that's machmir? What's pshat? I saw someone brings that. Why would you have arichas yom and someone's machmir? Because it says someone who is mishamash b'tah, say someone's with his wife in the day, it's mekatzron leishnoisav. And the whole point of the Gzeir was Talmud Chachamim that they shouldn't be with their wives during the day. So if someone's makpid on the mikvah and he's not going to be with his wife during the day, so they'll have Richas Yamim. It's a little bit of a... And that's why it's only for Talmud Chachamim, because only Talmud Chachamim are supposed to be with their wives during the day, are allowed to be. Okay. Amarival. Says Yerusha B'Levi, Ma Tivan Shel Toiv Le'Shachris. What's going on? Why are people dipping in the mikvah in the morning? Why are people going to the mikvah in the Shachris? So the Gemara says, Mativun? What do you mean? You said that Balkari someone's tumas carry, he's not allowed to learn Torah. That's why they're going to mikvah. So Achikama is what he said. Ma tivan bar by himself. After but Tisha Kabani. This is already many years later, after the rumor came out, Tisha Kabin came out. He said, why people go to the mikvah? Use Tisha Kabin. Why do you see all these people, paying the 12 shekels to go to the local mikvah? Take a shower. Ma tivan b'tfila after b'nesina. Why are you dipping after b'nesina? It's fine just to pour the water. Reb Chaim says, Geder, Gadol, Gadjuba. The fact you have to go to the mikvah, this is a big Geder, it's a beautiful, what's the word, how you say Geder? Yeah, it's a beautiful safeguard. Why? Why is it a safeguard? This is a crazy story. It's a bit of a machlek is what's going on in this story. The Tanya. A certain guy came over to the woman and said, let's have babies. L'dvar veri. He wanted to do an avera. Amra lai, she said to him, Reika, you fool, you empty person. Ishcha b'im side, you got a mikvah around. Shat a toivel behen. You got a mikvah, you're going to go to the mikvah afterwards. Miyad pirish, so he left her. So you see that the fact that you got to go to the mikvah saved this guy from sleeping with his woman. So take a look in Rashi. What does Rashi say? Rashi says, what type of woman are we talking about here? We're in the second column of Rashi, about 2,000 Isha. Isha pnuya Isha. She was single, she wasn't married. Because Chacham Malayichot Afala pnuya. Achamu Geiser also on a pnuya. Right? Because all Geiser, guys, the person's not allowed to be miyach with a pnuya. So the question is, first of all, what's going on over here? How does Rashi know this woman was a pnuya? Maybe she was married. Well,
her response was not, she said, I'm married.
Right, in other words, she wants to scare this guy and say, how are you going to learn Torah? You need a mikvah. She should say, you're going to violate the worst forbidden issue in the Torah, right? Chayv Misa, you're going to go to hell forever. No, so she was a pnuya. Midaraisa, she was mutter to him. Midaraisa, she's mutter. She's pnuya. She's not near that for whatever reason. She's going to the mikvah every day. She's not ishasish. But Rakma. So in that case, what was here? So why does the gemorah say he was teveh l'dvar? So Rashi is explaining what was the avera here? Because Chazal will geyser ala pnuya. Chazal said he's not allowed to be with her, even if she's a pnuya. She's not married. Still, you're not allowed to be with a single woman unless you get married. You need chuppah v'kiddushin, right? You got to get married. You can't just be premarital izasa. So that's what the issa was over here. So what do you see from this story? That the people, the Hamaynam, even the guy like this guy, he was makel on the Isidar Bonon of a Pnuya, but Takonas Ezra of Mikvah was more important to him. He couldn't learn Torah. He still wanted to be able to learn Torah. The Hamaynam was like, Torah is more important than the Isidar Bonon of going Isidar Bonon of a Pnuya. It could be the Isidar Bonon of a Pnuya. He had a massive Yetzirah for this Pnuya, right? He has massive inclination. And he can't control himself, but he wants to learn Torah. He doesn't want to okay, now I can't learn Torah for the next 2 weeks because I've got no mikvah. So Amlehem, Amar Luhu Rav Huna, l'Rabbanan. Rav Huna told the rabbis, Rabbi say, why are you taking this thing lightly? Why are you not taking the mikvah thing seriously? If it's because the water's cold, you can go to a hot bath. Right? The mechatzais was a hot bath. The mikvahs were cold. A kosher mikvah is cold, right? Fresh water, cold water. You're not supposed to have a hot water because gzeira of shuvim. But for a man, there's no problem of shuvim, so you can heat up the water. That's the Rishonim explained. Since you can have shuvim, so you can have a nice hot bath. They can make it in a hot bath. It's geschmack. What could be more geschmack every day than going to a nice hot bath, right? That's not going to scare him away from being his wife. People love that. Are you allowed to dip in hot water? Surely you can't dip in hot water, right? So Amalei Ravada Barava Kai Kavasach. He holds like you. I hold like you. He was sitting at this place of this water thing. And he told this guy, he was sitting in like the bathhouse basically, and he says to his gabba, says to his mishamish, his right hand man, go bring me tesha kabin. And pour over me. What do you need this whole turcha for? He's sitting right there. I guess the water's right there. Just like Arbaim saw you, in other words, the question is like this. He's sitting in the water. There's Tesha Kabin, he's sitting in a bathtub of water. What do you need? The Gemara is saying, what do you have to have this guy pour over him? He's sitting in Tesha Kabin, go like that, I guess. He's sitting in Tesha Kabin. Why isn't Tesha Kabin enough? Why do you have to have someone pour it? So he answers that a mikvah, you don't pour 40 saw of a person, you have to dip in the 40 saw, right? And if you pour the mikvah water over a person, it does nothing. That's not called tefillah's mikvah. Tefillah is you're dipping. Arbaim saw, you have to pour and not sit in. Now, either one you pour and one you sit in, one you dip in. Two different mahalchim over here. So he says, it's like 40 saw. Just like 40 saw, you have to dip in and you can't pour. After Tesha Kav, in the 9 kav, the 12 liters, Benesina, you have to pour it, the loy, but you can't dip in. This is an interesting story. Rav Nachman tikin chatzpah, bas Tesha Kav. Rav Nachman, he put outside his base medrash, whatever it was, he put out there a chatzpah, a big kli, a big, bucket, with 9 kav. So this Talmidim could every morning, or whatever they needed to, they could pour the 9 kav over them. You measure, pre-measured, pre-measured shurim. This is the first marker in Shas.
Could it be reused? Apparently it could, no?
Well, you pour the water and you're not going to have Tesha Kav anymore.
Put it back in, you poured it.
Yeah, but someone's going to be on him in his hair. You lost your 9 kav. You got to, either way, I think you can reuse the water. I don't think it's also to reuse the water. I haven't studied that. But l'chaira, you got to refill it either way. Now it's all on the floor, it's gone, it's in the sewage. It's got to be in a kli. So he put up this chatzpah, right? They told him, when can he use 9 kav? That's only for someone that's sick, who has a unforeseen, it wasn't intentional, he has a carry while he's sleeping. But someone who's margel, someone who's with his wife, he needs a proper mikvah, right? So the whole point of Tesha Chabin is only for someone that has an accidental discharge, not someone that's margel, someone that does it intentionally, that's with his wife. That guy needs 40 side, needs a proper mikvah to dip. So Amar Rav Yosef, it bechatz beit Rav Nachman, they broke his kli. In other words, once they told him that you only need 9 saw, the Tesha Kabin, the Tesha Kabin only works for accidental discharge, so they didn't need it anymore. In other words, his Talmidim only needed this Tesha Kabin to be when they were with their wives. They didn't need it for accidental. They never had accidental discharges, right? So therefore, they didn't need this clear anymore, so they broke it. He put it up there, his Talmidim were married, these aren't kids, his Talmidim were all married. He thought, let's put the thing up there, the 9 kav, so that people, if they're with their wives, they can use the 9 kav. Turns out, no, 9 kav doesn't help you for wife, that only helps for accidental. And accidental, it don't help you. Accidental, they don't need. So, Amar Yosef, itba chatzed Rav Nachman, ki also Ravin, Amar B'usha, Ava Uvda B'kila. Rabin came and said, in Usha, in this town, Usha, there was a story of the Kila the Ravoishia. Kila is a portique. It's like a little porch outside the front door that's covered with something. Rashi says, take a look in Rashi. Knisas Abayis, outside the front door. Chedesh Lefnei Atraklin, there's room in front of the entrance, in front of the hall. Shekairen, we call in French, portico. Portico is French and Spanish for like a type of covered porch. Okay? A portico, porch. So, we put Tikka to Rav Ashi. Also, V'shal Rabasi, also Ashi, Amalu, Loishan L'chayla Margel. So they put in his thing, right? A Tesha Kabin. And he said, what's the din? Amalu, Loishan L'chayla Margel. You only need Tesha Kabin for someone who's with his wife. Avil L'chayla Einsai, Potem Klum. If someone has accidental discharge, he doesn't need anything. So Amr of Yosef, it's Tamid Chas Bevidu of Nachman. Based on this, they rebuilt Rav Nachman's kli. In other words, once he came and said, it's a machlekes, he's saying that if someone has an accidental discharge, you don't need anything. You don't need the mikveh, you don't need 9 kav, you don't need 40 saw, you don't need anything. So what do you need 9 kav for? 9 kav is for accidental. 9 kav is only for guys with his wife. So this mandama held, you do need 9 kav when you're with your wife. This is machlekes. Wife, does 9 kav help or not? He said you do need 9 kav with your wife, and therefore all these Hamidim that were married, they needed the 9 kav, so they put back together Rav Nachman's kli outside his base medrash, his 9 kav thing. Okay, I think that's the 2 dots here. That's where we're up to? Yeah. Okay, we'll end up over here. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.